Got to make something happen here.
Pacheco tries to get to the edge. Pacheco, a lot of room to run.
Oh, yeah, running angry. And Michael Jordan just makes a play.
In trouble, gets away. Mahomes racing with the bad ankle and all. Inside the 20.
Had to have it. Always.
Somehow, Patrick Mahomes.
Mr. Clutch. The Kansas City Chiefs are trying to become the first team in the Super Bowl era to three-peat, while the Philadelphia Eagles are trying to return to glory and avenge the loss from Super Bowl 57. We have Mahomes versus Hurts, Saquon versus Spagnuolo, Reid versus Sirianni. Who do you got? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Super Bowl 59 from the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. This is Sunday, February 9th. Kickoff will be at 6:30 p.m. approximately Eastern Time on Fox. Let's go through a full game preview. I'll start with the headlines and storylines from this week. We'll talk about the key matchups and the X factors in this game. I'll tell you what the difference in Super Bowl 59 will be in at the end of the video. I'll give you my final score and prediction, so make sure to stick around. Let's go. Of course, the Super Bowl bringing the best in both sports and entertainment. This year's spectacle being kicked off with the national anthem being sung by local artist and musician Grammy winner John Baptiste. And we know the Super Bowl halftime show this year will be performed by recent Grammy winner Kendrick Lamar. Let's dive right into our headlines and storylines from Super Bowl 59 week. Let's start with the Chiefs, of course, returning to the Super Bowl, looking to three-peat for the first time in the Super Bowl era. This will be their fifth Super Bowl appearance in 6 years or 7 seasons. The Eagles, on the other side, is their second Super Bowl appearance in 3 years. They're looking to avenge the loss from Super Bowl 57, where the Chiefs were able to pull out a last-second field goal, winning that Super Bowl 38-35. The Chiefs are looking to solidify their dynasty as potentially the greatest of all time, becoming the first team in the Super Bowl era to three-peat. You'll have to go all the way back to the Green Bay Packers of the 20s, 30s, and the 60s. They're the last team and only NFL team to win 3 NFL championships. The Philadelphia Eagles are bringing in the most dynamic player to Super Bowl 59 in free agent acquisition, Saquon Barkley. Of course, coming from the New York Giants, staying within the division, coming over to Philadelphia and having a career season with over 2,000 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. The highlight we let in on was followed up by a controversial call in Super Bowl 57, which ultimately aided in the Kansas City Chiefs' victory in that particular Super Bowl. From that moment on, there has been several conspiracies stating that the NFL and other outside sources seem to have it in for the Kansas City Chiefs and have been aided by several calls over the last several seasons, or favorable calls over the last several seasons that have gotten them to this point. Well, the official leading into this game will be Ron Torbert. He has not officiated a Kansas City Chiefs playoff game since the 2022 AFC Championship. Many organizations throughout the NFL are in awe of how GM Howie Roseman of the Philadelphia Eagles has been able to maintain and build the culture of this Eagles team and now has gotten them back to the Super Bowl yet again. Free agent acquisitions like Saquon Barkley, Zach Bond, and draft picks such as Jalen Carter have repositioned the Eagles again to dominate not only this Super Bowl, but obviously for future seasons to come. In any big game that the Kansas City Chiefs play in, you have to mention the Taylor Swift effect. And it might not be at its peak like it was last Super Bowl, but it always plays a part. Now, is it some sort of NFL money-making conspiracy? No, I'm not saying that here. But she's always a factor and certainly brings more eyeballs to professional football. The head coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, is looking to win his 4th Super Bowl championship. This would put him in the upper echelon of all-time greats, such as Chuck Noll and Bill Belichick. He has certainly established himself as an all-time great. A big story heading into Super Bowl 59 for the Philadelphia Eagles is the play of quarterback Jalen Hurts, who led them to the promised land in 2022, but had sort of a down year last year in 2023. Well, this year, he sort of had a resurgence under Nick Sirianni's program after things had sort of been ironed out. Well, he had sort of his peak game there in the NFC Championship where he seemed to get both his arm and his legs going at the same time, and that is when Jalen Hurts is really playing his best. Well, he's coming into Super Bowl 59 at a very high level. It should be a very interesting game coming into it, Hurts versus Mahomes. For the Philadelphia Eagles to ultimately pull off an upset here in Super Bowl 59, they may have to separate themselves as far as points. The Kansas City Chiefs have won an amazing 17 consecutive one-score games. So if Philadelphia finds himself close late, that does not bode well for them winning the ultimate prize. As with head coach Andy Reid, the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, also searching for his fourth Super Bowl, which would tie him with the likes of Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. Only Tom Brady, who will be in the booth here for Fox for the broadcast team for the Super Bowl, has more than Patrick Mahomes with 7 Super Bowl championships. And now the injury report for Super Bowl 59. For the Chiefs, relatively healthy. The wide receiver Sky Moore is considered doubtful with his abdomen injury. And then on the Eagles side, running back Kenny Gainwell has a concussion protocol and knee injury. He's questionable. Britton Covey, the wide receiver, questionable with a neck injury. Brandon Graham, the linebacker, he is also questionable. He's recovering from an elbow injury. And then CJ Uzama, the tight end, also considered questionable with an abdomen injury. Both teams relatively healthy coming into Super Bowl 59. Let's go through the big game players or the X factors here for Super Bowl 59. Let's start with the Chiefs. As we know, head coach Andy Reid, their offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, and their defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. And you can't get around the GOAT, the Michael Jordan of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. Again, searching for his 4th Super Bowl in his career. This will be the 5th time in 7 seasons that he will make an appearance in the Super Bowl, and he is ultimately Mr. Clutch. You cannot get past Patrick Mahomes in any Super Bowl. And on the other side of Patrick Mahomes is Mr. Swift, or Travis Kelce, potentially the greatest tight end of all time. He's been to 10 straight Pro Bowls, and although he had sort of a quiet 2024, as he's getting a little bit up there in age, he's elevated himself in the playoffs yet again, and that's really been his track record. I expect that to be the same here in Super Bowl 59. And you have to keep your eye out for wide receiver Xavier Worthy. He is lightning fast, potentially the fastest player ever in the NFL if you're looking at 40 times. But the Chiefs use him all over the field. Short crossing patterns, even in the rushing game, they will get him involved. For the Kansas City Chiefs to be able to do what they do offensively, for Patrick Mahomes to have his success, it really relies on a fantastic interior offensive line. Now, there's been some questions on the outside, but on the inside with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, they're really able to dictate a lot of what they do up front. So you have to keep your eye on that offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then on the defensive side of the football for the Chiefs, you have to start with possibly the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL, Chris Jones. And he is a force. He is a pass rush animal, especially on the interior, and you really don't see that very often. But again, they're hoping that he will continue to elevate his game, as he was historically a little bit quiet in the playoffs. Well, that's start to change, and they were really going to need him to come up big against Saquon Barkley and that Philadelphia offense. The Steve Spagnuolo defense is tough to solve, and one of the reasons the Kansas City Chiefs have had so much success is because of the play of their defensive backfield. And right now they have fantastic cornerbacks in McDuffie and Jalen Watson. They are honestly probably the best pair of cornerbacks in the NFL. There's some injury concerns with Watson. I think he's recovering and trying to get himself back, but he will play in Super Bowl 59. And coming in healthy, they really have a fantastic duo and will attack the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's look at the X factors on the Philadelphia Eagles side. Of course, the head coach, Nick Sirianni. The offensive coordinator is Kellen Moore, and their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. Let's start with the quarterback, Jalen Hurts. We talked about how hot he was in the NFC Championship game, and there was some injury concerns with his knee. Well, I think he spelled that with the way he was able to use his legs to escape the pocket, run the football, make plays. And if he's playing like that, really at the top of his game, Philadelphia in that offense is going to be tough to beat. They scored 55 or whatever points it was, And if that's the offense they bring and the Chiefs aren't able to hold down Jalen Hurts or contain him, that is going to be tough to deal with. Now, on the other end of it, and maybe, again, the biggest X factor in this game altogether, the most dynamic running back in the NFL, Saquon Barkley. The Chiefs' biggest and sole purpose in this Super Bowl is to try and stop or contain Saquon. If they can make Philadelphia one-dimensional passing the football, they have done their job. But ultimately, that's difficult to do. He has had a fantastic playoffs. He's been almost impossible to stop. And when that offense is rolling, Philadelphia is hard to hold down. Through the air for the Eagles, they got two great weapons, but I think their biggest weapon is A.J. Brown. And although he's been quiet in the playoffs, I think this is sort of the time for him to break out. Because, again, I think the Chiefs are going to do everything they can to sort of hold down Saquon. I think that opens up opportunities through the air. And with the speed and power that A.J. brings to the table, I think he could be a huge X factor in Super Bowl 59. We mentioned the Chiefs O-line as an X factor. Well, we have to do the same, if not more, for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the best offensive line in all of football. Obviously, with a weapon like Saquon, it is clear that they have a leg up, but you can only get so much yardage on the ground if you have a dominant offensive line. Guys like Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson, just a fantastic combination. Size, power, speed, they really can do it all up front, and that's how they get things going for Philadelphia. On top of a great offensive performance in that NFC Championship game, I think what you started to see build was how dominant the Philly defense can be, especially their defensive line. And the X factor in this game, I believe, will be rookie Jalen Carter. He has become a game wrecker. He is almost impossible to stop. And Philly has so much other talent on the defensive line that it's hard to just double or triple team Jalen Carter. So it opens up a lot of opportunities for, other players if they're going to decide to do that to him, or ultimately if they just go man up, Jalen Carter is going to continue to produce. So the offensive line for the Chiefs is going to have to figure that out if they're going to get some things rolling here in the Super Bowl. And then Zach Bond at the middle linebacker position has just been fantastic for Philadelphia this season. What a great offseason pickup that was for Roseman in Philadelphia, and they've been able to implant him at middle linebacker, and he's been everything all-pro. So I expect him to be also an X factor in Super Bowl 59. Let's go through what I believe will be the key matchups in Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles, and I think you have to start with the most dynamic player, Saquon Barkley. Are the Chiefs and their front seven going to be able to hold down Saquon and this rushing attack for the Philadelphia Eagles? Saquon Barkley is averaging 147.3 yards on the ground in these playoffs and has 5 touchdowns. In 2024, Saquon had 14 games of over 100 yards in the 19 games he's played. Now, on the opposite end, the Kansas City Chiefs have not given up a 100-yard rusher in 18 straight games, so something is going to have to give. The linebacking crew for the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as those safeties, are going to play such an important part of being able to contain Saquon. That, I think, is your key matchup here in Super Bowl 59. And then flip it the other way, the Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to have to figure out how to contain Patrick Mahomes. And he's shown that he can get out of and escape any situation, no matter what position he's in, how many points he's down. He is the ultimate clutch player. Now, he's typically gotten his legs going more when he gets into the postseason. In the last time these two teams matched up in the Super Bowl, I think he had 44 yards rushing. And again, in the AFC Championship game, he started to get his legs going more and more. So I expect that to be the case. It kind of makes the Chiefs' offense even more dynamic in those situations in the playoffs and, of course, in the Super Bowl. So Philadelphia is going to have to do everything they can to not only contain Patrick Mahomes, but they have to get home. They have to get him on the ground. And I know that is very difficult, and you have to deal with the outside factors. You have to be very safe when you're hitting Patrick Mahomes, but that is the key to success in holding this Chiefs offense down. In any big game that could remain close or come down to a last-second field goal, you have to look at the kickers involved. And the Chiefs have a very reliable kicker in Harrison Butker, but the truth is he hasn't been as reliable in kicks over 50 yards. That's the same on the other side for Philadelphia kicker Jake Elliott. For Harrison Butker and the Chiefs, he's 0 for 3 on field goals of 50-plus yards this season. Again, for Jake Elliott in Philadelphia, he hasn't fared much better. He is 1 for 8 on kicks over 50 yards. So if the kickers get put into a situation where they have to make a distance kick here in the Super Bowl, we're going to have to keep our eyes on it. My last key matchup here for Super Bowl 59 is the Philadelphia Eagles passing attack versus the Chiefs defense. And this is if the Chiefs defense can hold down Saquon, which has to be the game plan. Can Philadelphia respond? Can Jalen Hurts respond ultimately with their passing attack to make up and make the difference here to win Super Bowl 59? We talked about the X factor, A.J. Brown. They have Devonta Smith. They can even use Saquon in the play action and get him out into space, hopefully on passing attack type plays. So that could certainly play a part. And they're going to have to figure out how to adjust if that rushing attack is not running full cylinder. The Kansas City Chiefs formula for many years, especially this year, has been to control the clock and maintain efficiency on third downs. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are the ultimate clutch head coach and quarterback combination, and it's really difficult to beat. The Chiefs are always in these playoff games, even in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are 3-1 in the Super Bowl when they trail by double digits. That is an incredible stat. Ultimately, Patrick Mahomes is him. I've said that on the channel over and over and over again. I am not a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'm not even a huge Patrick Mahomes fan. But you cannot deny the greatness. And if he wins 3 in a row, he is the GOAT. The difference in Super Bowl 59 will be the Kansas City Chiefs' experience and clutch factor. They are clutch not only offensively, but also defensively. They've been in every situation. The Philadelphia Eagles are bringing in a hot offense and the most dynamic player in all of football. But I believe the Chiefs have the winning formula. They really know how to overcome any obstacle, and I see that happening again in Super Bowl 59. Patrick Mahomes will come through yet again in the clutch, and the Kansas City Chiefs will win their 3rd Super Bowl in a row and solidify their dynasty as the greatest in NFL history. The line for this game is currently set at Chiefs -1.5, and the over is set currently at 48.5 points. As I laid out in my X factors, the key matchups, and the difference in the game, I believe the Chiefs win Super Bowl 59. I have the final score as the Chiefs 31 and the Eagles 29 in a close affair, pulled out in the clutch by Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, everybody involved with the Kansas City Chiefs, ultimately getting their three-peat, solidifying their dynasty, and winning Super Bowl 59. Who do you guys have coming out victorious in Super Bowl 59? Chiefs or Eagles? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you think the Chiefs pulled off the three-peat? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for hanging around another video. If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gas Sports, please make sure you hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. I'd also love it if you consider subscribing. We're on the way to 3,000 now, thanks to you guys. And if you hit the notify bell, you won't miss any future videos. I do have a membership option available. That's where I do my live game play-by-plays, all my reactions, a ton of other fun stuff. But there's always free content here for you all the time. More than anything else, take care of yourself and that mental health. That's so important. I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. I hope you guys have a fantastic Super Bowl Sunday. Enjoy yourself with friends and family, however you watch the game. Go Lions.